Good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. It's another day and another genius move by Donald Trump to highlight the hypocrisy of the left in new ways. So I'm going to share this video with you, posted on X by Western Lensman, and this is going to show you side by side. You can see here. So we allowed about 50 some people from South Africa into the country. And Democrats have a big problem with this, as you're going to see here from mainstream media reports. But they had no problem with the image on the right, which is people breaking through the barriers at our southern border. Interestingly, many of these people, as we have now found out, have been MS-13, Tren de Aragua. They're gangbangers, druggies. I mean, people who have meant to do harm to the United States, a full-scale invasion. Yet 50 families from Africa waving flags who have been vetted. Is the bridge too far for these Democrats? These clips that I'm about to share with you from the mainstream media are gonna blow your mind. But really quickly, do check out MyPillow. The Giza sheets are $49.98 for any color, any size. Right now, they are the best sheets you will ever sleep on in your entire life. They are Donald Trump's favorite product. So go to mypillow.com/lumberjack or call 1-800-568-2865 for the best deals on the best sleep products available.
The South African president says the people arriving in the U.S. today do not fit the definition of refugees, and that what Trump has been told about their persecution is false.
So the president of South Africa has said this isn't happening in his country. Now, he's been proven to be a little loose and fast with the truth, and Donald Trump actually is fulfilling his campaign promises, is doing exactly what he tells us to do, even though the media tells us he's lying. But Donald Trump cannot be trusted, but the president of South Africa can. These people are wild. Remember Maryland Man? Yes, the story about Maryland Man. Well, and he actually ended up being deported for very good reasons and should be down there in CCOT in El Salvador. And then if you look at this, there's videos all across the internet like this right now. Some are alongside roadways, but they are representing the white families that were killed, the farming families that were killed by people in South Africa to take away their land.
Trump administration, they're saying that essentially these white South Africans assimilate better, and they're also not as much of a security risk. That's really causing a lot of people to be appalled, frankly. And I also should tell people that this violence that they're talking about that are dealing with these Afrikaners, I've been hearing from people that say there is violence in South Africa, but it's affecting everybody of every single race, Katie.
Well, it's obvious this lady is appalled. I wonder if she would find this appalling. In this next clip, you are going to see them dancing and saying, "Kill the farmer."
Shoot to kill, Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa.
Brr. They seem pretty excited about killing the farmers over there. So who's really facing the persecution? And one of the things you don't want to do as a country is to take away the means of production of farmers and the people actually producing. The white farmers currently produce 95.3% of their corn, 98.7% of their wheat, 97.6% of their cotton, 97.2% of their citrus, 99% of their potatoes, 91.4% of their tomatoes, 96.9% of their soybean, 95.8% of the poultry, 66% of the cattle, 89% of their wool. Look, folks, you cannot take away a class of people that is producing the goods and services for your country, the very goods, food that keep you alive, and end up with a good result. So we brought them here to America, and the U.S. Department of State is welcoming them with open arms.
Welcome. Welcome to the United States of America. A lot of you, I think, are farmers, right? When you have quality seeds, you can put them in foreign soil and they will blossom, they will bloom.
Let me make something very clear here, folks. This is not a white versus black issue, a white versus brown issue, a brown versus black issue. It's none of that. What this is a cultural issue. You can take families from Mexico who are hardworking, long for the American dream, and run them through the vetting process, bring them here, and they are going to bloom much better than radical leftist Democrats in this country. Do you all understand that? It has nothing to do with the tone of the skin. We have a problem with college-aged liberal women where they can't produce. They want to go work in gender studies, and they're going to bring the downfall of America if you continue to promote that ideology. Again, these are people coming in, waving the flag. They're trying to escape persecution in their own country, and they're going to do quite well. I think they're going to bloom quite well. What do you think? I'm curious to hear your comments down below.
And we are excited to welcome you here to our country where we think you will bloom, and we will hopefully allow you to have fulfilling lives for your children, and then we will benefit alongside you.
Why are Afrikaners being allowed in who are white, and the Sudanese are being closed out? I'll start with you, Scott.
I don't know. I don't know if they weigh one against the other that way. I mean, I do think it's not alleged discrimination that these people are facing in South Africa. I mean, the law there absolutely allows their property to be confiscated. They are subject to racial discrimination. Some have been subject to violence from some reports that I have read. I mean, we're talking about 50-something people, and the people who seem to be angriest about this today had no problem with 20 million coming here. Some of the worst people in the world coming here, including gang members and so on and so forth. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for the folks who are outraged today after what happened to this country over the last several years, over 50-something people who are clearly being discriminated against in South Africa.
I love Scott Jennings. I love the fact that CNN can't get rid of him because he's the only thing that does good for their ratings. And you look at these two women on the split screen is doing them no favors whatsoever. It's like the split screen during the debate with Kamala or Biden. But watching them, they're just angry, liberal women. That's the way they come across. They make everything about race, which is why we have to cover this story as a race issue, because they're the ones making it about race, because everything is race-centric to them.
Trump has virtually halted refugee admission in America for people fleeing war and famine in places like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Look, I don't know who needs to hear this, but we don't need to take in refugees from every other country, okay? And we don't need to take in refugees that are going to do harm to the fabric of our country. The people we need to take into this country are people who love America. This is just like the homeless crisis in the U.S. where they say, well, just build everybody a tiny home and give it to them, and then that'll solve the homeless problem and they'll be off drugs. No, that's not how it's going to work. They're actually going to wreck all the tiny homes and still be on drugs. They need a radical life transformation, folks. They need to find Jesus. They need to get a new system of values. All that needs to take place. They need to develop a work ethic. They need coaching, mentorship, training, and they need a radical life transformation. We don't need to bring everybody here. We don't need to bring the problems of the world to America. We can actually work to send missionaries over to those countries. Like I've been to Ghana, and that is a country in Africa that has a very similar shared set of values. They put America on a pedestal. They love our system of governance, and they have a representative form of governance. In fact, they're even pro-life.
But what has happened in this strange, bizarre world we're living in is that the Afrikaners have become the darling of these right-wing, white supremacist movements around the world. That it's like the lost cause for them. It's like the old Confederacy. They're held up as these white Christians who are being dispossessed of their land. It's like this is a modern replacement theory in a country where, by the way, white people make up 7% of the population and own 78% of the farmland. So it's actually, there's no injustice here. As you mentioned, it's taking places away from refugees who are really being crushed by authoritarian governments and military governments for these folks who have never had anything happen to them. I mean, Trump amazingly called it a genocide, one of the worst lies I've ever heard him say.
I don't know how many of you out there feel super privileged to be white. I don't. I actually just worked hard, and I think, I hired people, and it didn't matter if they were black, white, in sales. None of that mattered. You just work hard, you sell lots, and guess what? You get to make it. It wasn't about privilege, folks. You're not privileged because you're white. You're not privileged because you're black. That's at least not how it's supposed to be. This guy probably was. There is nothing worse than the white privileged liberal that resides in America. They have a guilt complex so strong that they want to take the rest of us down with them to somehow assuage the guilt that they have inside of them.
You know, I think it's important for us to understand that the Trump administration is a lot of things. But one thing it certainly is a white nationalist project. And oftentimes we don't want to describe it as such. I'm not reducing it to it because there's greed, there's graft, there's all sorts of things happening around it. But we need to understand the way in which great replacement theory is driving this. There's a sense in which the immigration policy is all about demographic shifts. There's a sense around the assault on voting rights and civil rights. It's all about who will have the decision-making power to determine who will run the country. And here, this idea that the republic must remain a white nation is evidenced in this move, which is so explicit that it cannot be denied. And so when we don't describe it for what it is, we become, in an ironic way, complicit in what they're doing. It's a white nationalist agenda, it seems to me.
Folks, this is great replacement. Okay, that's what it is. They always go back to white nationalist and all that, but it's great replacement of many people. It's not just white people. It's replacement of citizens who believe in the shared values of America. It's not about white, black. Again, I tell you, it's not about that. It is about replacing those with shared values who believe in America in its foundational core, because they will vote Republican. And these people want to usher in all these Democrats. And they talk about voting rights. They don't want voting rights. They want voting cheat. That's what they want. That's why they're opposed to voter ID, which 70 some odd % of Americans are in favor of.
It actually turns out he does want some immigrants. He wants the white Christians from South Africa to be immigrants to this country.
And there the fraud, Mark Elias, outs all of it in one fell swoop. The fact that they're white, the fact that they're Christians, that's the real problem for these people. See, you can be white and non-Christian, or you could be black and be Christian, but you cannot be white and Christian and come into this country. We are talking about 59 people, folks. They allowed tens of millions, and now we have this faux outrage over 59 people. Think about the lunacy of that, and think about a good night's sleep on the Giza Dream Sheets from mypillow.com/lumberjack, or call the 800 number at 1-800-568-2865. Folks, you are going to absolutely love them. You'll sleep like a white nationalist Donald Trump, man. We'll see you on the next episode, folks. Peace out.